If you're not careful, you're going to turn into me. I had a guy that I didn't really get along with really well. And a lot of people, he was kind of rough around the edges. I was managing an install team at a company locally. And he pulled me aside and he said, "Hey man, if you're not careful, you're going to turn into me." And it shook me to my core because I didn't really like him. And not a lot of people did. And he said, "You're not a good listener to your guys. You're not giving them good direction. You're demanding a lot, not giving anything for them to work with." And he said, "That's my biggest problem, but I'm 60. You're not. So you could fix it. If you're stuck in your business, there is not an outside source that's keeping you there. It's something internal to your business. It's internal to you, internal to your processes, internal to your staff. Somewhere, something has got to change, because what got you to this spot, what got you here, is not going to get you here. You've got to make some changes somewhere."
So welcome, everybody. I want to welcome you back to the Impactful Leader podcast. And I'm super excited to have with me Paul Olsen. He is the Chief Innovator at the So Good team. And we just had a great time connecting off screen, just hearing his story and hearing his desire to help equip business owners. So I'm so excited to just dive into your story. Welcome, Paul, to the show.
Man, thank you. I'm excited to be on here. I really appreciate the invitation. I love to share with anybody that is looking. Maybe one nugget I have will help somebody on this show. That would be great.
Absolutely. So what I've learned, Paul, is that every part of our story and our journey matters. And you share with me a little bit about your beginnings and how it impacts the way that you lead today. I would love for you just to start by sharing the starting point of your journey. Take us on that journey from growing up in New Jersey to being a business owner and having an impact on so many people.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be somewhat quick about that, but I don't want to leave out too many details. I grew up a poor kid in South Jersey, a little town called Pleasantville, just outside of Atlantic City. And when you're growing up in areas, I mean, this is pre-internet times. I'm not trying to date myself, but I mean, I'm that old. And that's just all there is, and being a poor kid in South Jersey, I didn't know a lot about the different economical statuses, that existed. When I was a senior in high school, my parents moved to Tucson, Arizona. And it's pretty wild how, my dad was a plumber, and had worked as a plumber in New Jersey, and then was taking that trade to Arizona, making the same money in Tucson that he made in South Jersey. It allowed my parents to move from a very poor part of South Jersey, a low income area, to the foothills, which is a very affluent area of Tucson. And there was some culture shock for me, honestly, in that, of going from drive-bys, gang activity, that kind of thing, to an affluent area where the high school kids that I was now going to interact with were, complaining about the car that their parents bought for them was, they didn't buy them, the Mustang, they bought them the Ford Taurus or whatever. And I was kind of going, I don't understand. My parents never had been able to afford to buy me anything. So there was this big culture shock that happened, and it took me a little while to adjust. But what I learned about that time, the communication techniques I learned going from one to the other in such a kind of an overnight move, it really positioned me to be able to adapt better moving forward throughout my career. So when I got into the trades and followed my dad into plumbing, he taught me the trades from the time I was a little kid. And it allowed me to be ready for that type of job where you just go into different houses and you interact with different people, from musicians like Paul McCartney, actors and actresses like Sandra Bullock, or all the way, doctors, lawyers, and to even other low income Section 8 housing. So you kind of have the gamut. And I was able to kind of master my own communication styles. And I think a lot of that has to do with, just my roots from my, young age being kind of flipped.
So from a leadership perspective, why is that so important? Because I was so impressed when you said that before we started the podcast about the ability to communicate cross-culturally. And I made a comment that you have heightened cultural awareness. Why is that so important to leadership? What did you learn about that in the area of leadership?
Well, one of the things I love about, being, again, in the trades, that's my base, but in leadership is, you get to work with all the different levels. When I became an executive, I've got my executives that I'm working with, my management team working under me, and then they have their technicians, and their technicians have their apprentices. We have, CSRs, call center, all these positions, even in accounting, dealing with lots of people in different parts of their lives and in totally different communication styles. And an accountant to an apprentice those like night and day. And so learning how to communicate with the different types of people in the different areas of their lives allows me to connect with them on a different way. So I can I fit in their shoes in some fashion, some way at some point, and allows me to kind of communicate that to them and show them that, hey, I understand where you're at and where you're coming from. Now let's talk about where you want to go so we can, get you to the next level. And that's always been my favorite thing about leadership, is seeing my team grow and go past where they are. And my goal has always been for everybody to go past, where I am. I want everybody to go to their highest level.
Yeah, I appreciate how you're carrying that vision, being able to see the potential in others. So it's obvious that you got a lot of your work ethic probably from your dad. You were doing the jobs that maybe many people didn't want to do, but I'm sure you built a level of work ethic. So I want to know, when was the internal shift from worker to leader? When did that shift in your mind, and what was that like for you?
I wanted that shift early on in my life. And my first job, not in the trades, first job was working at a bagel place. And I got to become a shift leader. And it's kind of funny at 16 years old, when you're the shift leader on your first job, you've been working there 2 months, you feel like you kind of made it. And I made a lot of mistakes in that leadership role, because I didn't understand leadership at all. And so when I got into the trades and I had to work my way through, I was intentional about having conversations with the door closed with my managers. I'd worked for a guy who was working in a COO type position at one of the companies I was at, say $60 million a year plumbing company in Austin, or home service company in Austin. And the owner got sick and had to have emergency surgery, and he died. It was very quick. Over the course of 2 weeks, the company's visionary just passed. And when he did, there was a succession plan that would allow for a board and them to elect a CEO. And they hired this gentleman, his name was Robert, into that position. Now, I had been working with Robert for years before that at a previous job. And the first thing I did was say, hey, can we have lunch? Because I wanted to pick his brain about that and try to understand that shift and how he was going to handle it. And if I needed to find another job, I mean, I didn't know if I could believe in him, but that opened my mind to having conversations on a different level with some of the leaders that I was a part of, because the stuff that he shared with me in that, some vulnerability, some strong leadership ideas and plans, and I really got behind his vision in that meeting. And it made me go, man, I really need to do this more often so that I can hone myself as a leader to be prepared. Because I at that time, I would think back to being the 16-year-old kid making stupid decisions, hiring a girl because she was good looking and not treating somebody well because I didn't like them personally. Those kinds of mistakes. I was like, I got to be a better leader. So that kind of helped guide me at a younger age. And those were the stepping stones.
So when did you see, or did you always see yourself being something bigger? When did you get that vision for even what you're operating in now? You have such a passion for empowering and equipping others and even serving business owners. We want to get into that. But did you always see that? When did you start developing that vision and setting your own goals?
I wish I could say forever. I always wanted to be more. I could say that. I always felt like I should be more.
Mm.
But there was a long time in there that I didn't really have a lot of belief in myself. I believe when I was sitting in a room, when I had just gotten into a managerial level, that I was sitting in a room with people that were all smarter than me, and that they all had a plan. And I was oftentimes feeling like I was, fish out of water in some of those meetings, and even didn't have my stuff together, so to speak. And everybody there seemed so put together. And as I've gone through this, growth continuously, I hit a spot. I guess this was in 2016. And I had a guy that I didn't really get along with really well. And a lot of people, he was kind of rough around the edges. And I was managing an install team at a company locally. And he pulled me aside and he said, "Hey, man, if you're not careful, you're going to turn into me." And it shook me to my core, because I didn't really like him, and not a lot of people did. And he said, "You're not a good listener to your guys. You're not giving them good direction, and you're demanding a lot, but not giving anything for them to work with." Wow. And he said, "That's my biggest problem, but I'm 60 and you're not, so you could fix it." And that I went home that day and I talked to my wife and we wasn't my wife yet. We were engaged, and I talked to her about that, and she could tell that sat with me for quite a while. And, I guess it was probably within a couple of days, she sat me down. She said, "You don't have to be that way. You do care about these people. I can see it in your eyes. I could see your frustration because they haven't rose to the occasion. What are you doing to help them get there?" And that kind of started to shift my focus to, how can I be a better leader to show them where they need to go? So instead of, barking out orders, but going, hey, I literally reinvented myself in that role. And during my time there, was able to connect with some people that after I left that role and that job, those people came to work for me just in 2025.
Wow.
Because they had remembered how good of a leader I was back then, which just blows my mind to this day, because I definitely didn't start out as a good leader in that role.
Yeah, I disagree with some people. Some people say, leaders are born, and I say leaders are developed and forged. I think, somebody can have charisma and they can have, different skills and abilities that show up. But the story that you shared, that moment where it was like the wind was knocked out of you, like you got punched in the chest and somebody held up a mirror like, man, this is you. You're not as good as you think you are. And it can, if we're not careful, our emotions can tell us, man, that's harsh, man. Why would he say something like that? But I love how you humbled yourself, and you and your wife, helped you understand that this is an opportunity. Like you just got a reality check to pinpoint where you're at. Now the ball is in your court to make a decision whether or not you're going to get better. So I have a question for our audience, Paul. We got to challenge the listeners right now. Who do you have in your life that can give you a reality check? And the leaders who don't grow, who stop growing, are the ones who allow their ego to shut them off. Bro, sis, you're not that good. You need somebody in your life to coach you. Would you agree with that, Paul?
Oh, man, 150%. I have my wife. She'll, you're married, that sometimes nobody will humble you more than your spouse. She's an amazing person, amazing woman. She does things that I'm like, man, I don't even know how you pull that off. But I also am partnered at So Good. So with my best friend, Kyle, and I will tell you that, he's been, for the last few years of my life, been the guy that's been hey man, just don't forget that, your shit still stinks like everybody else. And excuse my French there, but you sometimes you have to hear that. And it's best if you hear from somebody that, loves you.
Yeah.
I've spent a lot of my career looking up to other people and finding mentors, as much as I could. along the way. There's people today that I follow strongly on, Facebook, Instagram, message with and communicate with that I believe are just some amazing leaders in the trade or in the trades. And I'm lucky enough that they spend time with me, talk to me, and give me counsel when I need it. If you don't have that, you're definitely missing out, and your growth is going to be stunted.
Wow. So, Paul, you work with a lot of people, helping them level up. Like even your employees, you said that you'll sit down with them and ask them, like, what are your goals? Like, what's your vision? Let's come up with a plan to get you there. And what I'm noticing now, just through my line of work, and I have a passion for mentorship as well. And I'm noticing that mentorship is not as much of a supported role as I felt like it was when I was younger. It's like I was taught to honor those who were in a position to teach or to coach or to train. And I would pursue that. But now it seems like there's been a disconnect in that area. So have you experienced that? How has it been from a leadership development standpoint? Do you find that to be true with people, that people are not as used to the mentorship and the coaching and the guiding?
I would say that it's probably kind of dependent on the industry and the group that you're a part of. I will say in the trades, because somebody has to almost, to learn the trade, somebody has to teach you along the way. Mm-hmm. So mentorship becomes a big part of all of the tradespeople that I've been a part of. I'm blessed that my wife and I, we have a blended family, and my wife's youngest daughter, who's my second youngest, but she's a bonus daughter, followed me into the trades and has taken on an AC service tech role. And I have encouraged her to find other mentors that aren't me, right? Because I was happy to be a mentor for her for a period of time, but I want to be her dad,
Yeah.
And she's found great mentorship in the trades. And I would say mentorship is pretty strong in the trades. Accountability of mentors are really strong in the trades. And I would tell you that I've been impressed with it.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that answers your question. I've never lacked finding a great mentor in that space.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I believe that, even the more you grow in leadership, what I find is that, at some point you got to pay for it.
Yes.
Yeah. So when you're younger, it seems like it comes to you and it's there and accessible. But the more you grow, the more you learn, the more you mature. One of the best ways to invest in yourself is to make that investment to someone mentoring you. Like I had a coach beating me up this morning, just kind of tearing down my view of things. I'm thinking I'm killing it, but he's calling out different areas. I'm like, man, I'm speechless. I don't even know what to say, and I'm going to think on this. So I love that. So I want to shift topics a little bit. I wanted you to talk about So Good and how So Good is uniquely positioned to solve a problem. What problem are you guys solving?
Well, currently, we're working. Currently, we solve the problem where we work with people showing up on AI search or Google. So May 2025 hit, Google launched Google AI mode, and immediately people started to lose impressions on their website, impressions on their Google business profile. They immediately started to not be seen as much because AI was taking some of those impressions and nobody was attributing that to anywhere. So now over 70% of the time when you Google anything, what's at the top? An AI overview, a summary of some sort. And so websites are, halfway down the first page or not even onto the second page. So you have these businesses that have been building SEO and web pages and using that for their local business to get them found and get hired, get leads that are no longer able to get traction because SEO is halfway down the first page or on the second page. And it has nothing to do with their SEO providers. It doesn't have anything to do with, the web developers and all the work that was done. It's just Google shifted. And so my business partner spent a couple weeks researching and developing what we would need to do in order for AI to see a company and put them into the overview as that, authority. And so we put together a program, it's different levels too, but a base program that will get companies shown. We do curated YouTube content. So we make YouTube videos for clients that are asking and answering questions. We build an FAQ page and a blog page on their website, and we handle their Google business profile, which is where So Good started, as a Google business profile management tool. And we link all that together so that when the AI, which 65% of the time they're looking on YouTube or Reddit for their first look, will find that company. It'll link back to the FAQ and the blog, and that those AI bots will crawl those pages and say, this is the local expert for this, question, and then put them at the very top of Google. And we do it extremely well.
Wow. Man, that's so valuable. So I was reading somewhere, and you're described as having a people first approach. So what does that actually mean on a day-to-day of your business? What does that look like?
Well, you mentioned about needing to pay for coaching and pay for mentorship. And so many business owners, especially local business owners, some of them on the smaller side, they've got a lot of lines in the water for marketing and operations, buying vehicles, that kind of thing. They don't always have the time to give to those mentors. And if they have the time, they may not have the money. One of the people first things that So Good does is my business partner and I have unique links that all of our clients get that allow them to book a 30-minute meeting with us directly anytime. So any one of our clients right now can jump on, do 30 minutes with Paul, and get some mentorship, get some conversations, whether that's something that's coaching oriented or just, hey, I think these are the things that could improve your time management, your business, your call volume, those kinds of things. And it's a way that we give back to our customers. I mean, I initially had that link just to give out to anybody who'd ever want to talk to me. But we've grown to a point where I have to reserve that for So Good clients because they use it. And I kind of make that as people first as we can get, as well as really spending a lot of time with our own staffers and trying to build rapport and find out where their own goals are and how we can, at So Good, help our employees get to those goals.
That's amazing. So what's next for So Good? What do you see?
Man, I had a crystal ball. I mean, I would tell you that in March of 2025, I would have said we would stay a GBP company forever. And now we're an AI optimization company. I can see things fast changing. There's a lot of avenues that people have asked us to be a part of. We've been asked to open a coaching side. We've been asked to opening accounting type softwares for helping people track payroll. But at this point, I believe wholeheartedly that we're going to continue to grow and push into the AI optimization world, because as AI grows and shifts, we're going to continue to grow and shift with it. I don't plan on, and I know my business partner isn't planning on any new additions to So Good over the next 12 months. But as AI moves and grows, I couldn't tell you, we will be nimble and we will shift to wherever the market goes.
Man, that's a leadership principle in and of itself. Like really being able to pivot when needed. I think a majority of people had to learn that lesson the hard way during COVID, because the way that we went about business totally changed. So that's a great insight. So I want to ask you this, since you're so in tune, even with the trades industry, what advice would you give a young tradesman who feels stuck?
I would tell them to go out and find them a mentor, somebody local that's found more success than them, somebody that's hopefully not so local. So like, let's just take Austin, for instance. If I'm in Round Rock and I feel stuck, I want to try to network with somebody down south, somebody that's down by like, Buda or Kyle on the other side of town, where that they don't want to go all the way up into that area. Like the driving through Austin is 1 hour, of somebody's life. And it's hard to make money when your technicians are windshield time from one side of the town to the other. But I would look for a mentor, somebody that's been where you are and has gotten past that spot, to help shine a light on what's holding you back. Because if you're stuck in your business, it's something I talk with a lot of business owners. If you're stuck in your business, there is not an outside source that's keeping you there. It's something internal to your business. It's internal to you, internal to your processes, internal to your staff. Somewhere, something has got to change, because what got you to this spot, what got you here, is not going to get you here. You've got to make some changes somewhere. And so once you can identify the things that you need to change, then you'll quickly go from here to here. In a matter of a 3-year span, I helped 2 different companies in Austin that I work for go from 2 million to 3.5 million. In both of those shifts were in 12 months. So 2 million to 3.5 and 2 million to 3.5, because that was easy for the second company for me, because I already knew all the things. I mean, it came in, we identified immediately, these are the same problems that this business had. We're going to make these changes. And then boom, we were there.
Wow.
I didn't have a stiff learning curve there. The first one, I had some pretty stiff learning curve, but I did navigate and I did speak with some other business owners that were dealing with the same issues, and some that had moved past, and they gave me some inspirations and some things I could change that helped me get to that.
Wow, that's so good. So we're coming to the end of our interview, but I want to just say to all the business owners listening, if they want to reach out to you and learn more about what you do with So Good, and maybe you have a consulting call, how do they get in touch with you?
So emailing me directly at paul@sogoodteam.com. So that's all one word, sogoodteam.com. You could look us up on our website, sogoodteam.com. Or you can hit me up on LinkedIn like you did, or Facebook. I'm always happy to chat on there. I'm more active on Facebook than I am any of the other social media channels. If you're trades related, I could tell you that we could have a great conversation. When it comes to other styles of business, So Good can work with any local business. We work with doctors, lawyers, chiropractors, storage facilities, coffee shops. Those are all within our businesses that we currently work with nationally, not just trades businesses.
Excellent. So what I want to do now, and I've never done this before on my show, I want to do a lightning round just of random questions about leadership. And I just want the first thing that comes to your mind, I just want you to say it. All right. So what's one leadership habit that changed everything for you?
Managing my time management.
What's a book that shaped your thinking?
It's going to be, it's Maxwell, Self-Aware Leader. Self-Aware Leader was a massive hit in the face for me.
That's so good. What's the hardest lesson you learned in business so far?
That sometimes failing is success. Sometimes when you mess something up, it shows you the path.
So good. And then last question. So you're on the Impactful Leader podcast. What does it mean to be an impactful leader or have impactful leadership?
I mean, to me, it's accountability to it. Understanding that when you have the ability to impact those around you, that you take that seriously, because it's your duty to make sure that that impact is for the positive.
Excellent. Well, Paul, thank you so much for sharing your story and a little bit of your journey. And I encourage you, if there's something that Paul said that resonated with you, or there's a service that you feel like he can help you with to help scale your business and grow your revenue through these solutions, feel free to reach out to him. So thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time. Thank you, Paul, for joining us.
Thank you.